talking about numbers that are actually between each whole number. Okay, so smaller numbers, and we'll talk about how to label those now. The way that we label those are with fractions, because we're not talking about whole numbers, we're talking about parts of numbers. Okay, so for example, from here to here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in on my brownie which piece goes from 0 to this first little mark right here. So if I colored it in, it would be this piece right here. Okay, in our last video, we learned how to label shapes based on being shaded in. Okay, if you remember from that video, we were talking about how the top number, or the numerator, is how many pieces you're talking about, and the downstairs denominator, or the bottom number, is how many pieces there are in the whole total. Okay, so for example, like the whole spelling test or the whole brownie. Now remember, from 0 to 1, so this black piece right here, this black brownie, that's one brownie. Okay, and I'm talking about one piece out of that whole brownie. So because I'm talking about one piece, my numerator for this mark right here is going to be 1. Now, my denominator is going to be how many pieces there are in total for that one brownie. Not all the brownies, just the one brownie. So what we're going to do is we're going to count how many pieces there are in that one brownie. Okay, there's 1, 2, 3. Okay, 3 pieces in that one brownie. Another way to count on your number line, if you didn't have the shape above it, is you are actually going to count the spaces right here. You're not going to count the lines or the marks. You are counting the spaces, because if you see, that's what you're talking about. You're talking about this piece, and that piece is shown by the space right here. So this is how I would count to know how many pieces there are in the whole brownie. I would go like this: 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's 3 spaces, or 3 pieces, in the whole brownie, so my denominator is going to be 3. So the fraction of this mark right here is going to be 1/3, because I'm talking about one piece out of the 3 total pieces in that brownie. And we're going to fill in our number line the same exact way. So if I shaded in this next part, that would cover from 0 all the way to this mark. So what I'm talking about is 1, 2 pieces. So that's going to be my numerator. That's how many I'm talking about. And remember, it's still out of 3, because that's how many total pieces you have in the brownie, in the one brownie. Okay, so that's 2/3. Now my next mark, it's already 1, so it's one whole brownie, but there's actually a way that we can write that as a fraction as well. So if I colored in this piece as well and I ate this piece, that means I've eaten a whole brownie by now, but you can still write that as a fraction. So you're going to write 1 whole, and I'm going to write the word or, because there's another way you can write it. So it's 1 whole brownie, or how many pieces am I talking about? 1, 2, 3 pieces. So that will be my numerator, out of how many total pieces in the whole brownie. Once again, the whole brownie was just broken up into 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. So what you're going to do is your denominator is going to be 3 as well. Okay, so that's 1 whole or 3/3. Now, if I continue filling it in, let's see. So maybe one brownie wasn't enough for me. I was still really hungry. I wanted to eat more. So maybe I ate this piece as well. Okay. What you're going to think about is, once again, how many pieces are you talking about? And that's how we're going to fill in this mark. So let's count. How many pieces am I talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've eaten 4 pieces, and if you were counting on your number line, you count the spaces like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So my numerator is going to be 4. And now here's the tricky part where you really need to think about it, okay? The denominator, remember, is just how many pieces the whole brownie is broken into. I'm talking about this brownie right here, this blue brownie right here, this light blue brownie, and this brownie is broken up into 3 pieces as well. All the brownies are broken up just into 3 pieces. So my denominator is still going to be 3. So it's 4 pieces that I ate out of the 3 total. And the reason you do that is because now you can tell that you ate more than one brownie. Because remember, one brownie was 3 pieces out of 3 pieces. You ate all the pieces. But now you ate 4 pieces out of the 3 that each brownie was broken into. So you can just tell by looking at this fraction that you ate more than one brownie. Okay, and we're going to fill in the number line just like we did. So if I ate this next piece as well, how many pieces am I talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or if I counted on my number line, it would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember, I'm counting the spaces and not the lines. So I ate 5 pieces. That's how many I was talking about. Out of 3 still, because the brownie is just broken up into 3 pieces. Now, if I ate the next piece as well, that would mean that I ate how many pieces? How many brownies? I ate 2 brownies. Let's see, I ate 2 whole brownies. That's why I am at 2 on my number line. In my picture, I have shaded in 2 whole brownies completely, okay? So I do have 2 whole brownies now, but there's another way to write this as a fraction. So I'll write 2 in the word or, because I'm showing that there's another way to write it as a fraction. How many pieces am I talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm talking about 6 pieces. Out of how many pieces was that whole brownie broken into? And it was 3 pieces. Okay, so 6/3. Okay, now if we were still filling in our number line, let's see, let's shade in another piece. Oh. Just fill that in, because remember, it has to be completely filled in. Okay, I'll fill in the next piece. So how many pieces am I talking about? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm talking about 7 pieces. So that's going to be my numerator. And then my denominator is still 3 because each brownie is broken into 3 pieces. Okay, now same thing, I'll color in my next piece. How many pieces am I talking about? Well, I was just talking about 7. Now I know I'm talking about 8 pieces. So my numerator is going to be 8. Remember, my denominator is still 3 because each whole brownie is broken into 3 pieces. If I shaded in the next part, or if I ate the next part, that would mean I've eaten how many whole brownies? I've eaten 3 whole brownies. So I ate this brownie, and this brownie. So yes, I've eaten 3 whole brownies. But there's another way that you can show that as a fraction. So I'll write 3, or how many pieces am I talking about? Well, I was just talking about 8 pieces. I just added another piece, so now it's 9 pieces out of how many total in the whole brownie? It was 3 pieces in the whole brownie, okay? Now, same thing for the last one. You'll fill it in. I ate that piece, okay? How many pieces am I talking about? I was just talking about 9, just added another piece, so now I'm talking about 10 pieces. Out of how many is each whole brownie broken into? 3, so 10/3. All right, and then the next piece, fill that in. How many pieces am I talking about? Well, I was just talking about 10 pieces, just added another piece. So now I'm talking about 11 pieces out of 3 because each whole brownie was broken into 3 pieces. And then if I filled in that last part, I've eaten another whole brownie. Okay, so I've eaten 4 whole brownies now. I've eaten all those brownies. That's why on my number line right here, I can have a 4, but we can also write that as a fraction. So I'll write 4 whole brownies, or how many pieces am I talking about? Well, I was just talking about 11 pieces, so now I'm talking about 12 pieces out of how many pieces that each whole was broken into, which was 3. And that's how I'm going to fill it in on my number line.